That's me, the Scott voice, see? Guys, can you stop touching your microphone, see?
I'm going to do a 9-minute soliloquy and then come to you with a question that I will then answer. How about that?
Oh my God. Is anyone still there? Hello? Is anyone still listening?
Wassail and welcome to the Neutral Cider Hotel. You are going to be hearing quite a lot of the word wassail during tonight's show, but don't worry, it's not some kind of cidery Tourette's that I've managed to acquire over the last week. It is in fact a wonderful historical word, heritage, tradition and culture associated with British cider, and all will be explained as we go through. Checking in to the Neutral Cider Hotel today for a chat will be Manchester cider pioneers Dick Whitecombe and Cath Potter, talking all about their fantastic cider journey. We're very much looking forward to speaking to them. We'll then also be tasting fantastic level from Somerset modernists Pulpt. We're all big fans and all have our own individual relationship with those guys, and it's a great cider. In fact, I'm already having a little bit of a sneaky taste right now. And we will round off with a game conceived by Martin, which inevitably will enable him to undertake an impression of someone from New England in 1797, or something like that, probably. But first... Kanpai, Tervazex, Slangiva, Topa. No, don't worry, that isn't me describing the defensive line of Partizan Belgrade during the 1991 European Cup final. They won, by the way, against Marseille on penalties. I watched it. It was great. No, these are all boozy salutations from all around the world. Boys, can you name any of the nations that those were from?
Japan.
Yeah, Kanpai's Japan.
Very good. Nice.
Scotland.
Nice.
You had Russia
Scotland,
in there, didn't you?
Good. Close, but no.
I think it's worse that it's close. I would have been perfectly said, I don't know.
Estonia, Tervazex. I went there on a school exchange when I was 17. Anyway, the reason why I bring this up is because the boozy salutation associated with British cider is the word wassail. And wassail, it comes from...
I know, you really belt that out, don't you? Sorry if you've blown anyone's speakers. Apologies.
I did tell you that I'd be talking with passion about the word wassail tonight. Yeah, okay, I'll bring down the level a little bit. So the word wassail in British cider is really important because it's our traditional cheers, and it comes from Old English, Anglo-Saxon, and it literally translates as "thou'st be whole," or good health. And so we're going to be talking about that and doing that quite a lot. But there are also lots of other ways that the term wassail is utilised. But as it is wassail, I should give salutation to my fantastic co-hosts. Wassail to you, Martin, and to Grant. How are you this evening?
Wassail, yeah.
Wassail to you, yeah.
Face,
yes, of course. Yeah, that's a deep cut from Neutral Cider Hotel, that one. That was a long time ago.
Shout out to Poland. But what's it called again? The episode we did, the Christmas episode, had you answering a question, Grant, where it was what is wassail's translation, and be whole, be merry. And that was the answer. So I'm glad that we're doing it again and hammering it this time in a purely awesome way.
We're going to hammer it all the way, so.
Well, we should say that this is being recorded on the 12th night, no? Are we right, Gabe?
It is. So there is a reason why I'm shouting wassail. It's not just because...
Guys, I need a new thing. The book plugs aren't working. I need a new catchphrase.
Yes. So the wassail, and the reason why it's so important to British cider culture, as well as this being this fantastic term, is that it's something that is associated with the old pagan Yuletide, which is what sort of turned into the Christian sort of Christmas period. And during this time, different things kind of happened. And one of them was the concept of wassailing with people. And that was that you would go door to door and you would sing songs, and it'd generally be slightly poorer people, and you'd get a couple of quid from the nice people in the big house. And that kind of steadily morphed into Christmas carols. But the other form of wassailing, of giving thanks and of blessing, was the orchard wassailing. And this was something that has been happening in British cider orchards since the 15th century. And it's all about, on this day of the year, about going to your oldest tree in the orchard and having a torchlit procession through the orchard and singing to the tree, praising the tree, and appealing for a bountiful harvest that forthcoming year. It dates back to a time when our knowledge of meteorology was not quite so good. And so we didn't want to leave anything up to chance. And so, other than going full on Wicker Man, you just try and, sing a bit of a song and drink a bit of cider and have a jolly good time was something that you could do in the heart of the depths of winter in order to try and have a good spot of cider that autumn.
With the putting the juice on the tree, well, the fermented juice, is there anything in either study or like that we know that might actually pertain to that actually helping? Because I know there was an old thing I saw ages ago about Vikings used to use bones with their weapons, as it was like, infusing it with the soul of the animals that have died. But it turns out that it made it really reinforced metal, and it was just like happenstance to be really good. Is there anything like that with the juice, or is it just we just do it because it's fun still?
I think it's something about the circle of life and the return of the product of that tree back to its roots. It's also when there are lots of different traditions from different regions around the wassailing, what you do and how you do it. One of the things that seems to transcend is the idea of, yes, pouring cider at the base of the tree, but also soaking bread in cider and placing that onto the branches and into sort of crevices within the tree. And that attracts birds, which apparently are a good luck charm. But maybe there's also something associated with the birds coming in and picking the pips off the ground if apples have fallen, and they take them away and help to spread them. I'm not so sure. Maybe it's just they want to have the robin around as a mate. I'm not quite sure. But I say in different places, different things. So down in Somerset in the southwest, you would have a wassail king and queen, and they would lead the procession, and the queen would traditionally have been sort of hoisted up to place the cider soaked bread in the branches. In Herefordshire, instead of the wassail queen, you would pick the smallest boy from the congregation, who henceforth would be known as the Tom Tit. And it was he who would place the cider-soaked bread into the trees. So,
henceforth, as in for the rest of his life.
Well, yes, that's right. You are no longer Michael Michelson. You are now Tom Tit.
The local town cemetery just has like Tom Tits all like in it.
So they just lost boys.
Now, it goes without saying that if you want to learn more about wassailing, you could do so. Chapter 9 is in fact called Wassail in Ciderology by Gay Cook. It's a riveting read with some fantastic photography as well by Bill Bradshaw. So do go and let it know. One of them, there are many great facts associated with wassail. I'm sure we'll get to some more later on. But the one I wanted to bring in just now is that although the 6th of January, the 12th night is the sort of the classic 12th night. But in some parts of the UK, the wassail is celebrated on what's called Old Twelvey, which is the 17th of January. And the reason why it's later is because...
That's very League of Gentlemen, that. 12th.
Britain operated on the old Julian calendar until 1752, when it moved over to the Gregorian calendar, and we lost 11 days. And there were riots. There were riots about these lost 11 days. You see, we riot about losing of time, losing of cider. We were quite rioty in the 18th century.
We've probably lost about 12 listeners from when we started talking about this as well.
That's most of them then. So come back. I will leave wassail alone for a bit. Wassail! And let's move on to whether anybody has any other news or any other conversation at all, please.
Yeah. I actually I got hoisted up and put bread in a tray because it's Old 12th day, isn't it?
Tam tit there.
Yeah, Tam tit. I just want to clarify for anyone listening that this isn't in joke that we've just strung together just a series of like nonsense things. These are all actual like things that have happened, haven't they, Gabe? They happen yearly. Like people
Sure,
still do this.
It's one of those great old-fashioned British traditions that sort of it's held on. It was held on in small communities. You know, it sits alongside the bog snorkeling and the shin kicking, and my personal favourite from my home county, the cheese rolling at Cooper's Hill. The most terrifying thing you've ever seen is a 12-pound wheel of double Gloucester being lobbed down a 1 and 2 hill, and people legging it down and just tumbling so badly. I did actually see a broken leg one year. But anyway, unfortunately, it wasn't mine.
There is a wonderful show on Netflix called We Are the Champions, and episode 1 is the cheese rolling. So anyone listening who is going, what is cheese rolling? It's 1, overly fucking brutal, and 2, it's just for some cheese. But I know we're on this rant now, but legally, quote unquote, no one organizes it because they'll get sued and everything. So it's just this thing that always happens. Obviously, it's organized by someone, but it's like, oh, no, it just appears.
No, it used to be a council-run event and thousands of people, but the health and safety of just getting the people, just getting the spectators there was bad enough, let alone the many broken limbs. So the council stopped running it. So the local rugby club. Oh my
God, is anyone still there? Hello, is anyone still listening?
There's a Polish guy going, yeah, go on.
The local rugby club runs it, and what they do. No. Listen. The local rugby club runs it. It's good. They now run it. So once you've made it to the bottom of the hill, there's quite a short gap before where there's like a house and a fence. So if you've made it down the hill in one piece, they then ceremonially rugby tackled you to the ground, smash you. So even if you've made it, you then get a bit of a hard hit at the end. So anyway. There we go. So
I think a lot of people who tuned into this show expected a lot of compelling things from you guys today, but never did they expect to go from the history of wassail and cider soaked toast to cheese rolling.
Well, we cover all bases.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Absolutely.
Put 3 white guys in a room. It's like typewriters and infinite monkeys. We'll just end up on this Somerset, Cornish, Hereford little intricate nothing.
And long may it continue.
Yes.
Wassail.
In all seriousness, something related to the podcast this week. I read, I think maybe we all read Johnny Hamilton's piece on Pellicle. I guess carrying on from the piece that we discussed that Adam Wells had written about imposter syndrome and kind of more open discussions around that and mental health, and Johnny's written this piece about his journey and what brought him to making Pellicle a reality, and it's just really, it's really well written, really open, really honest, and kind of, you know, discusses his mental health and his previous relationship, talks about his insecurities, and how he struggled to, I guess, find what he wanted to do, and I thought it was worth mentioning because there's been I feel like there's been a lot of conversation around that recently with Adam's piece and this, and just generally certainly in my social media bubble anyway, there has been quite a bit of openness, and in response there's been a lot of support offered, which I just think is great, and it's coming for me personally, coming from an industry where that's not really the case. It's so refreshing to see that, and maybe it's something that's just over the past even 3-4 years has accelerated to a point everywhere that people are more open about it. But it feels to me like, you know, there's people putting themselves out there and they're being welcomed and received well, and I just think that's a brilliant thing. So if you haven't read it, it's on pelliclemag.com. It's called Where You're Meant to Be, It's a really well written, thoughtful piece about Johnny and
We'll put that nice piece in the show notes as well. But it is, just for some context as well, on top of all of that, we went into lockdown, Scotland first and then the rest of the UK pretty much last night. So it's one where the drinks industry as a whole, because we do love it, but it is a depressant as well. But it does have that kind of like, it's best not to talk about that kind of thing kind of inherently built into it. And that is starting to change. And it is because of people like Johnny, like Adam, that have just started putting it out there a little bit honest and genuinely wearing their heart on their sleeve. And like you said, Grant, I've seen loads of people at the moment, like in the second lockdown especially, being like, look, if you need to talk, just give me a message. Doesn't matter if we've only like posts on here or anything. Like I'm here and I'm available, because it is something that's serious, and it has been highlighted with all these lockdowns and this kind of pressure situation. And I'm just glad that people are putting a voice to it and a name to it so that we can address it.
Bravo. Yeah, it's something that we're in for a pretty long lockdown by the sounds of it over here, and quite a strict one too. And hospitality has been shafted right royally once again, it seems. So there's going to be a lot of people who are in a pretty dark place. So, our thoughts are with everyone, and let's just try and keep as open a voice and community as possible. And again, if that's one beneficial thing that can come out from all this time, is just being open and just keep on talking. It's got to be a good thing. Got to be a good thing.
I'll say as well, to completely counteract that and actually talk about something I did that I loved. Today, I went down to Pulpt again, and we were doing some racking, sorting everything and that, and we ended up blending In Touch 2, and I'm going to put my money on it. It's the best fucking thing I've ever done in my life. Like when you're like, I was driving home after it, like, fuck. And I put on Titus Andronicus, the monitor, and I was just screaming home like, this is the fucking best. I was like, this is
amazing.
So good.
Well done, man. Because that fucking In Touch one is, I didn't make a top 5. If I had, it would have been in there for last year. And I saw a lot of people that did mention it when they did kind of talk about their bottles from last year. So yeah, looking forward to it, and that's exciting, and it's exciting to see you excited about it as well. Now,
when you say it's the best thing you've ever done, like ever, anything, including like marrying your wife, or
no, like the best thing like I've been a part of making, rather, because like you can't be a part of making soulmates, mate. That's just the world putting you together. But this was
Martin.
When I got in, I was like,
making me melt.
I was so happy. I was like, I was just thinking about how great you are. And she was like, really? I was thinking about how great you are. So we just had a lovely day. I mean, like 1950s, like rom-com, like, see, honey. But it just usually with stuff like that, like if you're making films, music, anything creative, or even just helping out at like say a brewery, restaurant, or anything, and you like make something, you're like, fuck, that's the shit. This is the first thing where I've like In Touch, I was really nervous about, because I was trying such crazy barrels. Like his whole library is like insanely diverse. So one of the first things I tried was like 11% cherry wine, which you're like, your palate's then shot. So then I was trying all these other things, like, was that what I thought it was? And it was new. It was a huge sensory overload. So I came away like, maybe it isn't as good as I thought. But when it came out, I was really happy. But this was like, everything was in its right place, and we'd put the elements there. So I was like, yes. Just buzzing on it. And now I'm drinking In Touch 1, because
do you know, I thought that's what it was. I could see you drinking it. I was like, that's got to be In Touch. That the colour off of that.
Look at that.
Listeners at home can look at that.
Well, I mean, I'm not like I'll be able to pick it out of a lineup, but it's Martin that's drinking it. And, yeah.
In Touch, Gospel Green, Pulpt, Albie Hill. Yeah.
I think we were chatting about it maybe a couple of months ago. Martin had opened a bottle, and now the kind of red berry notes that were there, that are there, are just really singing now, like just totally taking over, and it's better than it was when I first tried it when it first came out. And yeah, it for me, as someone who sells it, it's super popular with wine drinkers and people who sell wine, and it's a really accessible bottle to give to those people. So excited for number 2.
When is it due to be released?
Who knows? No, there will be something lined up, but I probably shouldn't even mention any of that. But I was just like,
exclusive, world exclusive, ladies and gentlemen.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
No,
lockdown.
We'll do something for it, but it felt the only reason I said it was like the first lockdown was the reason why we made In Touch the first one, and it just happened to be that we're in a lockdown, and it was like going to work and sorting that, and it was like, oh yeah. So who knows what will happen? Who knows what will happen with it? But just excited.
So that's wassail to our previous week. We've had a bit of a slow news week this week, so we are going to go straight on to our chat with the wonderful Dick and Cath coming into the hotel right now. So now, coming into the hotel for a good old chinwag. Grant, who have we got this week?
Today we're joined by not just one, but 2 of the loudest and most influential voices in cider. Self-described cage rattlers of not just Manchester, but the UK cider scene. Their appetite and enthusiasm for cider is more infectious than something that's really infectious. Whatever. Their Manchester
COVID-19?
Oh, that was the fucking joke. Their Manchester Cider Club, which like so many things last year moved from its physical home in the Crown and Kettle to the increasingly familiar world of Zoom, has been a welcoming place for cider enthusiasts from across the country, with guests including Matt Curtis of Pellicle, Simon Day of Once Upon a Tree, and many more. Now heading up CAMRA's efforts to introduce cider to a new audience through education and an evolution of the language around it, and also an integral part of Cider Women, a social group for women and non-binary people in the industry, we're extremely pleased to have checking into the hotel today Cath Potter and Dick Whitecombe. Welcome.
Hi.
Hiya.
We'll kick off by talking about, I guess, what you're leaving behind, what you're moving on to. So most people might know you through Cider Buzz Manchester, a blog and your social media profile used to spread the word of good cider in and around Manchester. But you've decided to move on from that. Can you tell us a little about that?
It came to an end. We set up Cider Buzz beginning of 2019. We had a 2-year plan. We described Manchester as a cider desert, and it's no longer a cider desert. We now have Cider Club coming up to its 20th meeting, and we've got Nicky Kong setting up the Cat in the Glass, distributing wonderful cider, and we've got virtually every brewery tap in Manchester now selling cider, from Cloudwater all the way out to Rivington. Quality ciders being sold. So we're retired cage rattlers, Dave.
Retired.
We're no longer shouting.
Oh.
We're no longer being. We're now being team builders. You know, we've been reading your book, and we're taking a leaf out of the way to be diplomatic and not upset people. That said, we seem to have left. We seem to have got a lot of cage rattlers that have. Now beginning to shout their way through the cider community. I mean, I must say, you guys, this podcast, this is number 11, and you've already had a best of as well. Majority of people But the majority of people you've had interviewing have been women. And if someone were to ask me, what is modern cider? I would point them in two directions. One is to Bristol Cider Salon, which is where we started. We thought, bloody hell, this is the blueprint of what we'd like Manchester to be. And now this podcast, everything about this podcast says to me, this is what defines modern cider. Both the quality of the ciders you have, the inclusive interviews that you've had, and the general direction that you're taking, but also, the bit of fun. And I think something Lily said today, she was tweeting about her experiences talking with you three. Obviously, she got quite emotional after she came off, said how nervous you made her feel. And then she said, cider has an ability to reach outside of the bubble, something that craft beer doesn't. And I think that's part of why we closed down Cider Buzz, because we want to reach outside of the bubble now. The whole Rethink Cider thing has come to an end. We had this whole mantra in Manchester, cider's got a bad image, rethink your attitudes to it, look at it anew. Well, look at 2 years later, the work that you guys have done and others are doing, all the new people writing about cider now. And cider's got a new approach. We're now presenting a modern drink, and we're doing that, and we're breaking out of the bubble of cider drinkers. We're going everywhere. So natural wine bars, craft beer bars.
How are you doing that then? Tell us about how you're doing that. How are you going to break out of the bubble?
Again, Lily said it's spot on. You get a bottle of cider and you take it to people and you give them to drink. That's where we started. Back in January 2019, we got a case of the best ciders we could find, and we took them to a tasting at Runaway Brewery. And the brewers and some of their friends, Jim Cullen from Independent Salford Beer Festival, drank all the way through, from bitter sweets to bitter sharps to ice ciders, and they were just blown out. And that's all we've done. We've taken good quality cider to Indie Man, to friends, Cloudwater Friends and Family, to as many places as possible. Real in debt to them for giving us the opportunity to present good cider, but give people good cider and they will appreciate it. The problem in the past was that people had misconceptions about cider. So you had to break through those misconceptions. But I think we've broken through that now. Now we just need to get the cider out to people. I think we're held back by our lack of ambition. We need to be more ambitious.
Crikey! If everybody in the world had an ounce of the ambition that you've got, Dick, I think we'd be in a considerably stronger place. What from a sort of outside perspective, what's been really impressive and really effective about breaking out of that bubble is the way that you have engaged with the really strong beer community that you've got in Manchester. You mentioned Cloudwater, which is, in the upper echelons of respected breweries all around the world, and numerous other breweries and bars and taps and festivals, like you mentioned, Indie Man and Salford Beer Festival that Grant's been involved with as well, and obviously the Camera Festival there. Are there any, other than just getting ciders into people's hands? I'm sure it's not quite as easy as that. What particular sort of tactics or things or types of cider have you presented to try and create that change in narrative or understanding about what cider is or what can be? Cath and Dick.
I think some people make a mistake when they try and take cider to a new place, in that they try to go for nice, easy drinking, middle of the road stuff, thinking, oh, well, nobody can object to this. It's this, it's that. What we found was that you take the best you can get, the most interesting you can get, the most extreme flavours you can get, because the thing about craft beer drinkers is they're curious drinkers. So that's why you get, like I drank a wilderness beer last night that was a farmhouse ale that had been aged in a whiskey barrel for some months and finished off, sat on not lees, grapes. in a way. And it was
Amazing.
fascinating. It wasn't. It was all right. It was a bit sweet for me.
I love the honesty, though.
Well, it was a bit sweet for me, for my taste. It was a bit sweet, but that's the sort of thing that craft beer drinkers go and buy because they're interested in all these different flavours. So you take a medium sparkling cider out of a 500ml bottle. So what? You take a bottle of Foxwell single variety, and you go, you like sour beers? Yeah. Do you like sour beers? Do you like really sour beers? Yeah. Well, there you go. Have a go at that. And they go, oh my God, I never thought cider could ever taste like that. That is amazing. What else you got?
Well, you're what you're talking about there, and I guess with craft beer, it's got the benefit of the process, and people learn about that and want to sort of push that forward. Cider, from a lot of people that I've tried to get into the drink, see it as like, oh well, it's all just made out of apples. How did you guys find the ciders that you present to people? Like, what got you on your journey? Where was the turning point?
We read a book. I forget, what was it called, Cath? Ciderology. And that was the blueprint.
Really?
It came out in 2018, and 6 months later, we'd set up Cider Buzz and created a cider revolution in Manchester. We just all from that one book.
Oh, come on! Don't give me that.
Have it.
I think cider grew up, and there was a core of people within cider who I would call the cider collaborators, who began to create modern cider. So without Tom Oliver, there would be no modern craft cider. He led the way from his collaborations with Garrett Oliver and Thornbridge with the Serpent, to his work with Mills Brewing, to his travels internationally collaborating with wine producers around the world. And then we then went to Ross Cider Club. Once a month, they met at Ross Cider, and they invited other producers to come and talk. And that was an eye-opener for us. These were people who were collaborating, not selling their own cider, but wanting to push cider as a whole forward. And there we met Little Pomona and Martin Berkeley from Pulpt. And I think Tom and Martin, with a bit of help from Gabe, organised Cider Salon, and that was just bringing the best quality cider they could to Bristol and showcasing it. Collaboration, Ross Cider Club, the work that Little Pomona have done, and we basically worked out customer engagement's going to be the number one thing, and we were lucky because we focused on working with Albert from Ross and James and Susanna from Little Pomona, and they've probably been up to Manchester 20 or 30 times in the last 2 years between them. So they've trod the boards, and same with Tom. Tom's been up to Manchester, probably about 10 times in the last 2 years. Martin Berkeley came up to Indyman, came to the Cider Club, came to Manchester Cider Festival. That absolutely needed was that core of collaborators who weren't just interested in selling their own ciders, well, wanted to create a profile for cider as a whole and take cider as a whole forward. So I think that was the first thing. We were lucky. We linked in with the best producers and with the best collaborators.
And I also think we need to say that we owe a bit of a debt to Hogan's, because they were the first serious proper cider makers to take Manchester seriously. And they actually had a rep that was based in Manchester, and they opened the door to other craft ciders because they are incredibly kind of generous, and they don't mind if somebody else comes in and goes, oh, do you fancy selling our cider alongside the Hogan's? And they've done collaborations with Ross. They've done 2 so far, and I think they've done a beer collab as well, and they made it easier for us because that door was kind of open in certain of the pubs that they'd already made contact with. And so I think, we should always give them credit. They've done a cider club for us as well. And, they've done Grub, Cider, Fate and also Indie Man and things like that. So it's not an individual thing, is it? It's a collaborative effort.
And yeah, you talk about collaboration quite a lot. What do you think? Where does it go from here, basically? So I guess we've spoken now about what you did and how you approached the Manchester scene and created a scene. Really, let's be honest. It wasn't that you made anything bigger. You brought it from nothing. So what's next? Where do you go next? Where do you take not just Manchester but the UK scene, and where do you go with it?
Can I talk about Cider Women in this?
Yeah, we'll get onto it, mate.
Yeah. If you want to talk about it now, I mean, it was on our list.
I just think
if it's relevant now.
That's my next sort of big task, is to keep building that. We already have quite a nice core of women around the Manchester area, both cider makers, cider sellers, other people who work in the cider industry or the pub industry. That's like a nucleus of a cider women's group, and we've probably had more Manchester events than we've had national events. That's only just bad luck because we had loads planned for last year. But we managed to get the Manchester ones. We managed to get the Cider Women's special around International Women's Day. We had a Cider Women afternoon tea, and that was literally the week before lockdown. So we were so bloody lucky.
So what have you got planned for Cider Women this year coming? Then?
Well, depends, doesn't it? It depends if we're allowed out.
Yeah.
If we're allowed out, we were going to do pressing days and harvesting days and blending days and all sorts of stuff we were going to do. But that's dependent, isn't it? But we can do. We're doing more online.
You did really well. Yeah, you did. I mean, the Manchester Cider Club, like I mentioned, the fact that moved online and the way that it happened. I mean, I've probably been to more than I would have in person, just purely because I can do it from my living room, and that was a great thing. So if there's a way that you can make it happen, I'm sure you will.
Yeah, we've had a couple of online sort of socials, Cider Women socials, which have been quite good fun. But I think it's the campaigning. You've got to keep things in the public's eye, really, if you like. So you've got to keep doing different things or putting out different things. I mean, obviously, we were quite well involved in the No Apologies thing that Taz started, that you had on a couple of episodes ago. Because as soon as we saw that, we were just like, yeah. So Cider Women put out quite a lot of stuff around that, and there's another sort of lot of stuff coming, hopefully next week, that'll get put out, because although we're getting there in cider, there's still this underbelly, if you like, that hangs around there that every now and again kind of breaks cover and upsets a lot of people. And when it does, you've got to deal with it. Otherwise, it gains confidence and it gets worse, and then you end up with problems with it. So we've got to keep our eye on that, but we don't want everything to be about sexist advertising and horrible marketing tools and whatnot. We want it to be a bit more about visibility of women within the industry in one way or another, or visibility of women drinkers drinking cider. That's not just fizzy. Because I think the other thing is that we've got this 50-50 gender balance of drinkers, but the common perception is that all women who drink cider drink some kind of horrible dark fruits crap, and that's really not true. And we need to keep pushing that side of it as well. That people make sure that everybody understands that women cider drinkers are serious. We drink serious cider, proper cider.
Do you find that as a woman in cider, and like the No Apologies campaign's a great example where it almost feels like to even talk about it, you have to talk about the problems rather than just like celebrating women in cider? Is it like a conversation of how do we get past that into a point where we're even talking about the problem of fucking addressing dark fruit and that stereotype? Like, just seems like everything's a barrier. How do you feel about the drink you love and being a woman in the scene?
Well, I think, I mean, I've never been as deep into the beer scene, but I think the cider scene's possibly better from what, by all accounts of women that are involved in or more involved in the beer scene than I am. So in some ways we're lucky, and we do try and make positive. You know, Taz's campaign was a very positive thing, you know, because it was just like, right, okay, stuff you, here we are, this is what we're doing, this is what we're drinking, and tried to make a positive out of an attack, basically. And some people don't get it. Most people got it. Most people supported, and in fact, so many people supported it that when somebody doesn't support it, it becomes a bit of an issue. We had somebody, one of our international members on Cider Women, Scandinavia somewhere, and she said, help, I've got this person on my group and she doesn't understand it and she's being really horrible. What shall I do? And she was really, really shocked that there could be this, well, actually it was a woman who was disagreeing. And because I think the support has been so huge that it gives a sort of sense of security that maybe is a bit OTT, because obviously this is bubble. This is the bubble.
Well, you Dick, you spoke about bursting out of that bubble, and trying to get cider to new people. How are you gonna do that? You're now working with camera, I believe, or I don't know if working is the right term, but you're helping camera to evolve their education and building a cider lexicon. Is that correct? Tell us a little bit about what you're going to do with camera from now on.
Gabe is writing a cider lexicon for camera.
He will be. He will be. Yes. Don't worry. There's a lot of 2021 left.
When the check
it's on the spreadsheet, Gabe. The money's been allocated. There's even a date on the spreadsheet of when it has to be delivered.
Yeah, all right, so Dick. All right. It's been a busy period. You know, we're getting there. We're getting there.
It's been Christmas.
Yeah.
I think that Camera is putting together a body of cider work that is really impressive, and that doesn't exist anywhere else, probably internationally. And I would put out two things that people should just go and look at. One is Gabe's State of the Nation speech, where he juggles some apples on a video, and he makes a presidential speech about where modern cider's going. And I tell you, I could have just written it all down and copied it and used that as my mantra. And the second, Bill Bradshaw, bless his bloody golden socks, he has produced the most exciting video on aging and maturation and blending with Tom Oliver. And he's also got Andrew Lee coming up on part 2 of the video. And it's getting that kind of educational content out to raise the level of cider. I think the biggest problem we have is the gatekeepers. There were some gatekeepers within cider who didn't want cider to become a modern drink. Well, frankly, that now, after the Cider Women and No Apologies campaign, they're just complete and utter niche. Cider's moved on. Cider's becoming a thoroughly modern drink. The next gatekeeping that we need to sort out are the people who order cider for bars and pubs and the wholesalers. So in Manchester, it was the distribution of cider was always the biggest problem. We could go down to Herefordshire, down to Somerset and Devon, and we could bring cider back with us for our cider festivals and for the cider club. But we never had wholesalers. one of the reasons we invested so much in promoting Restalk cider was because Grant was prepared to come to Manchester and tread the streets, go from bar to bar to get quality cider into. I mean, the fact that we now have Grant supplying Cafe Beer Moth, which is an institution, a beer institution in Manchester, and would never countenance to have cider. The fact that we've got quality cider into the Quaz Wine Bar in Huddersfield, it's just amazing progress. So that's the next one, is to get wholesalers a bit better sorted. We're now really pleased that we've got Cat in the Glass in Manchester, and it's breaking down barriers. CAMRA's part of that. CAMRA, for whatever people think about it, is the biggest drinks organisation in the world. And since the revitalisation programme, it's got a thoroughly modern attitude towards cider. I mean, I went through CAMRA's Articles of Association, its policy document from 2018 to 2022, and their aims, these are sort of written up in the core of CAMRA's objectives, are: one, to promote cider to advance its quality; two, to develop cider education and training; and three, provenance and ingredient labelling. That just to ask, where are the apples from? Which orchards were they grown in? What varieties are they? Where were they pressed? To put full disclosure of ingredients and process on labels. And I think we hide our merits far too much. Cider is the most sustainable drink, and it's got the best green credentials. We should be shouting this from the laptops. We should be splitting the wine community and the beer community with our strengths. How many British wines are made using British grape varieties? I would suggest none. Whereas cider is made from British, English apple varieties. We should be pushing that. The orchards, I mean, you know, the care that Polly and Matt put into the fostered orchards that they have in Devon, the way that Martin Berkeley will explain the particular kind of apples that are poor in nitrogen and why that help is important for keeving. All those attention to detail you would never find in the wine world. At the same time, we've got things to learn from wine about precision, about scientific method, about juice content, etc. But I think we should be shouting our merits a lot more and breaking out of the bubble of what we think of is the cider community. And I'll just finish on one thing. Generation Z. I think people need to look at the young generation because they are no longer just beer drinkers or wine drinkers. You know, you think back to CAMRA 10 years ago and you go into a CAMRA meeting and everyone's a beer drinker. We've got a Manchester Wine School. You go to Manchester Wine School, everyone's a wine drinker and they won't countenance drinking anything else. Generation Z, they don't have those preconceptions. They just drink whatever tastes nice. And that's the modern cider drinker that we're meeting. We're meeting people, and you can't just say to them, are you a cider drinker? Because they say, no. I'll drink some natural wine, I'll drink some quality craft beer, and I'll drink cider if it's good enough. And that's all we have to do. We have to put all those different sectors together. That's what I mean by breaking out of the bubble.
Well, just for our American and non-English listeners, CAMRA is the Campaign for Real Ale, and it's historically linked to pubs in the UK. And my question is for you guys, this year just gone and this year with lockdowns has like impacted hospitality intensely, and the pub sector is like essentially on its knees for a lot of people. But how have you found working with CAMRA, the kind of attitude change to cider in the last year?
Right. But two things. One, the game changer for me was within a week of lockdown back in March, CAMRA developed a collaboration with a small independent brewers association and set up something called Pulling Together. And I think that's been the theme of 2020. It's been people not just battening down the hatches and defending themselves, but people working together to try to survive. And in terms of cider, we're very realistic. The Campaign for Real Ale has got over 150,000 members. I would say less than 5% of them would first reach for a pint of cider, then reach for a pint of beer. So in other words, the real cider drinkers within CAMRA is a tiny minority. However, probably about a third of CAMRA members will drink a cider. So after lockdown, the first pint they'll drink will be a pint of beer, but after that, they might reach for a glass of cider. So the real thing is that even though cider is a minority within it, it's given us time. If you look at Learn and Discover, and we've got as much cider content in that as in beer. On the CAMRA podcast, we're getting some really good cider content. I've just been listening to an interview that Susanna Mansfield from Durham has done with Dave Matthews from Bartestry Cider, and it's just breathtakingly good. And that will come out in January. And Dave explains that when he edited CAMRA's Good Cider of the Year book in the year 2000, 20 years ago, and he's just so overjoyed by the modern craft cider movement and what's happened in the last 2 years. And he thinks he now completely rethinking the approach that we should take to cider. And he thinks that number one question isn't how we define cider, but what its juice content is, that or the other, but is ingredient labeling, empowering drinkers just by putting what's on the bottle. I mean, it's like the documentary that was in the visit to Bulmer's factory. It's very good. They said, we get the apples, we press them, and we turn it into a concentrated pulp. We can then make a cider within 3 weeks. At the end, we have to add a bit of flavour back into it. If somebody wants to drink that, fair enough. They're entitled to. The fact that they have the TV crews into Bulmer's and say all that, the fact that they put it on the labels, apple juice made from concentrate, that's progress. Our job is to educate the cider drinker how to find better quality and better tasting ciders that are made in different ways. A cider that doesn't take 3 weeks to make, but takes 2 or 3 years to make. But that will only be coming through education and for people drinking these ciders, and they're taking their own decisions about which they prefer.
Dick and Cath, your passion and energy is remarkable. And
you mean given we're so old?
That's not what I said. That is absolutely not what I said. Just full stop. And I can't believe that Cider Buzz was 2 years old. The amount that you managed to achieve in terms of creating a narrative, a dynamic, a scene, and a level of excitement and a level of engagement with other parts of drinks industry and with new drinkers has just been remarkable. So as drinks industry, we thank you. For anybody who wants to learn more about your new and ongoing projects, now that Cider Buzz is taking a well-earned rest, what's the best place for people to learn more about Cider Women and all the CAMRA endeavours?
Well, for Cider Women, we have a fully open page on Facebook that anybody can go on, post on, read the posts. And then from there, if you are a woman or you identify as a woman, you can join the group, which is a closed group. It's closed so that we can have our discussions without any hostile interventions from outside. You have to answer some questions before we'll let you on. Shall I say, Gabe?
Go on.
Gabe tried to get on the closed group.
Well, I mean...
First question. Are you a woman or do you identify as a woman? No.
No. That's probably going to fall foul of that one then.
Gabe, you weren't on your own.
I'm sure I'm not.
There's a gang of you. Fucking hell.
So anyway,
there's more than one of you.
That's there, and we won't. If you want to join in conversation and find out about things like no apologies and all those other things that we do, then feel free. You'll get to know about socials and stuff. We've also got a Twitter account and an Instagram account, but obviously they're public.
And Dick?
For CAMRA, it's quite simple. There's a book coming out next year. It's called Modern British Cider by Gabrielle Cook.
Yes, come on.
Expectations are very, very high, Gabe.
Oh, Dick. Oh, come on, mate. Don't say that. Shit.
So if you pick up this rather dated book called Ciderology, this is a real good basic introduction to anyone new to cider about, the basic one. The new book is going to be different because the way we pitched it is that this is the way forward for cider. So all expectations are Gabe. The other things to look out for in cider is the Pubs, Pints and People podcast, the Learn and Discover pages in cider, and CAMRA, Cider and Perry on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter. And I think basically what we try to do is we try to push as much authentic modern cider as possible. Also in 2021, CAMRA will be coming up with a new definition of its approach to cider. You know what they say about stroppy authors. The moment that Gabe put his name on the contract to produce a book for CAMRA, the first thing he said was, but you need to get your act together with this new definition that you're producing, because I can't write the book without a definition. So we've got a little group of people who are meeting day and night to produce a new definition of what CAMRA regards as good quality cider, and they're coming up with some pointers to best practice to empower the cider drinker to best make decisions about the cider that they drink. And that's all down to Gabe because of his...
My inner diva.
I'm fucking sure.
Is
I think I also need to say that if you're not a CAMRA member, you won't get access to some of the really good stuff on Learn and Discover, which I think is fair enough. You need to pay your money, become a member, and then you get access to the lot.
And I think in the future there will also be some cider training going on. So there's lots developing. And I think it's all to do with putting people together who've got a passion for cider. And I think, again, that's part of what we've got to sell. And in the last 2 years, a lot of new people have joined the cider community. And the one thing that they keep saying to me is, God, you people are just so welcoming. They love our community of cider drinkers. And sometimes we don't realise, how lovely we are.
You don't realise, Dick, you've just sat here and you just spoke about all our great attributes and not yourself in this interview. You're going to have to cut half of this. You're too nice yourself.
I was thinking he'd taken all Gabe's lines off him for the rest of the podcast.
Taking it back to what we're actually talking about, you said then if you don't join, you don't get the benefits. How do the listeners at home join?
CAMRA?
Mm-hmm.
Just search CAMRA on your googly thing and it'll come up, and the first page you'll get, it'll go join CAMRA.
Join CAMRA. Brilliant.
Click the button, pay the money.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Boom.
It's got
Done.
International membership. I mean, some of the Learn and Discover material is freely available at the beginner's level. But the connoisseur pieces, the stuff that sort of Gabe writes for, the real cider nerds, that you have to pay for. However, we will be opening up a lot of the stuff. The other thing I think that's really good is the inclusion and diversity materials that CAMRA's been developing. The fact that we've had so many women writing content for Learn and Discover. And I'd like to name Alex Metcalf, who's now one of my cider heroes, who's been pulling together all the Learn and Discover material for CAMRA. It's doing some good things for our community.
Alex is a real big sort of a cider fan in his own regard, isn't he? As well as, he really loves it.
And also Gillian Huff, who chairs the Real Ale Cider and Perry Committee, who's Cider Women member, and she is great.
There we go. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Well, we have to go now because it's time for bed for us old folks.
We've been talking about wassailing earlier on because it's sort of wassail season. So I've been shouting wassail quite loudly and hurting everybody's ears. So I'll do it again. Wassail to you, Dick and Cath. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for everything you're doing, and here's to all future endeavours. God bless you, and keep doing what you're doing. Cider continues to need. So, wassail, all the best.
Wassail, Scott. And thank you for your podcast. It's been a groundbreaker, a game changer. You're leading the way.
Down a path unknown and unwanted.
Unending. Cheers! So that's a big wassail to Dick and Cath for joining us in our chat this week. What an amazing power couple of cider they really are. But now it's time to move on to our tasting for this week. And our tasting is all about Somerset. We are trying Pulpt's level cider, chaps. Are you armed? Are you ready? Are you drinking already?
I am possibly? Both of those things. All three of those things.
Okay, let's go. All right. So I'll kick off to say Pulpt is Al and Jim, who are quite new to cider, 2017, both based down in Somerset, with an interest personally in sort of drinking it. And Al's made a bit of cider over the years too. And I got to meet these chaps just before they actually made their first sort of big batches of cider and launched in the autumn of 2017, but they already had a really clear idea of what it was that they wanted to do, which was to make really good, clean, contemporary ciders with classic Somerset cider apples, but having really, really modern branding as well to appeal to modern contemporary drinkers. Compared to some of the ciders that we've tried over the course of the shows, this probably isn't going to be the most out there, the most insane, the one that we could attribute 500 different kind of flavor profiles to. What it is going to be, I suspect, well, I know because I've been drinking quite a bit already during the show, is that it is just a fantastically drinkable, smashable, and still complex cider that, I'll happily drink plenty of.
Well, it's one of those where I think we love dissecting and we love talking about all these ciders and attributing characteristics and everything. And instead of a flavor profile or anything, all I'll say is fucking moreish. Like, it drinks.
Yes.
And it sounds silly to say, oh, this liquid quenches my thirst. And but it's one where I could have this in pretty much any size, really. Like, I wouldn't mind a pint of this. Just because that acidity keeps it fresh, but it's also got this kind of, it's kind of like having the Somerset cider apple in all its glory straight there. So it's not like hugely tannic that it's got massive staying power. It's not big and bitter. It's got all of those completely balanced because it wants you to drink a lot of it.
Definitely. It's, it's now is in a 500ml bottle as well. Like Martin said, you could drink a pint of it. It was previously in 330ml. They moved 500ml. It's so easy to drink, and even for it's 5.4%, which is I guess in that format and in a pint format is pretty high. Doesn't taste like that at all. Again, Gabe mentioned the packaging. It's a big thing about Pulpt, and what's great about the labeling is they've got this flavor wheel, the spider diagram on there that tells you it has intensity, fruitiness, acidity, sweetness, florality, and tannin, and it shows you where this cider sits within all those flavor profiles. And it's a great thing for bringing people into cider, and also for, not just that experienced cider drinkers who might be like, okay, I like something that's high in tannins and low in sweetness, and whoever's serving you at the bar or restaurant or off license can tell you, oh, this, you'll like this. But also people who haven't drank some cider like this before, and they'll say, oh, this is what I like. This is what I normally drink. And someone at the bar or restaurant can say, oh, well, you might like this, and hand them it, and with confidence, and be able to say, this is it, and this is why you like it. And it's just, yeah, they're brilliant. They're I think, and they're high juice content. They do use sugar and acid to balance out flavors, but their juice content's super high, and they're making incredibly great cider that's really, really accessible. And out of all the ciders that we've tried on this podcast that we have described as more accessible, this is, in my opinion, the best one.
Yeah. Well, the labeling, and you can just give it a Google at home if you're interested. But that like spider diagram that shows you the kind of profile, it's quite similar to when people at the start of like the craft beer journey were like learning what hops were, and it's a completely weird lexicon that's like left field if you have no idea what it is. And now it's kind of commonplace in my bubble, definitely. But like I've noticed my family members at Christmas now go, hey Martin, I'm drinking the Beavertown, it's quite hoppy. And you're like, it's fucking crazy that it's come that far. Like it's really impressive. But this is really good for that, because it is a fucking killer entry level cider. This isn't like a big challenging drink. It's using those elements to create something sessionable. And if you're attributing your drinking, and you're at the start of the journey and you have a glass of this and it's in the bottle and you read the label, you can start piecing your journey together with that information. That's not some like over the top bullshit to upsell it. It's saying, here's how it works. It's like a real simple how it's made almost kind of approach. And I really appreciate it. For me, I think artistically, you look at like working in bottle shops, I saw like thousands of artistic labels, and like you're all trying to stand out. For me, the label's like super clean and easy. It's not exactly my cup of tea, but I can see this so fucking perfectly for what it's meant to be, that I almost, if I was making this product, I would design it the same. So it's like my con of it would be it's not visually the most arresting, but it so works for what it is, then I wouldn't replace it. Absolutely.
Harking back to what Dick was saying earlier on about transparency and honesty and telling the story, that's precisely what they do. What goes into the cider? What is it about them as a producer? And trying to endeavor to tell you how the cider tastes, trying to get beyond, coming back to language and lexicon, and something being, the sweetness is one thing, but what are the tannin levels or fruity levels, or the, sweetness and florality and these kinds of things. To be able to have that information to hand is a really important thing. And also, temperature is an important thing as well. In the case of this cider, having that little bit chilled, I think it goes back into the fact that this is, this 500, but the fact that it's supposed to be a sessionable cider and a cider that you drink a quantity of, and maybe not one that you just pour into a glass and sort of look at longingly and pontificate about how you might consume it over the course of a long period of time. This is a cider that you drink and you enjoy drinking it, and you tell everybody and you share it with people. This is the cider. It does go into keg, and when we get back into the pub space again, I've talked about it before about how my viewpoint of the importance of keg ciders like this is being able to reach out to pre-existing cider drinkers to get them to sort of trade up, or maybe to reach out across to other drinkers as well. It is accessible. It's a great kegged product, and I think that it has the potential to sit alongside us to some of the more esoteric ciders that we normally taste along here that are just so sensational and amazing. But that has to be juxtaposed with just great accessible ciders that aren't overtly elitist, and this is absolutely that.
In the pub I work at in Bristol, the Good Measure, we have a big old fridge, obviously before the world was ending, but we have a big old fridge full of mainly fancy ciders because I do all the buying. So thank you, Restalk, for putting some Pomologic in there. But
Thanks for your order.
on keg, we have the odd crazy cider. I mean, we launched Little Pomona's Root and Branch, and that was like the first keg. James came in with it and was like, it tastes lovely. Like, we tried it on tap, it was gorgeous. And we've had some of the crazy Pulpt stuff as well, but always our house cider is Pulpt. And as someone who serves alcohol in all sizes, all measures, I couldn't be prouder to pour you a half or a pint of this.
There we go. I mean,
That's it. Yeah, I think you've absolutely nailed it. Great cider makers, hitting the mark and doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, and serving a need that is there that maybe some drinkers don't even know that's there. So once we get back out into the bigger, wider world, this it's the likes of Pulpt who are going to really sort of help the charge for cider as a broader category. So I think it's fair to say that this is something that people can enjoy earlier on in their kind of cider journey, but equally for hardened cider pros such as us, just provides that awesome, satisfying hit of just crushable
Just
cider.
crisp.
Bravo.
Just
yeah,
crisp.
it's so crisp. It's so easy to drink.
There we go.
Oh, sponsors for this episode. That was
Simba
really
mattresses and Pulpt cider.
Sleep well with the lovely palm taste of Pulpt cider.
And if you want to learn more about sofas, or indeed the cider that put you on the sofa, do head to Pulpt. That's pulpt.co.uk. That is our cider of the week, level from Pulpt. But now, to round off this evening, we have got a game from Martin. We're all incredibly excited. Let's see what he's got for us. Okay, so here we are. It's game time once again, and it's Martin's turn in the hot seat to develop an incredibly challenging game that hopefully won't involve anagrams that neither of us can get. So, Martin, over to you, my friend.
So, I basically, inspired by Grant's overly intense game, listeners at home that I know played along and didn't get any spelling of it either. Just where they literally had, I wrote like in the notes, Grant, play along, and it was like, Kobernik Dum Dum. It's like, okay.
I feel like I lost when I wasn't even playing. You somehow managed to turn it around so that I lost when I invented the game, because you've just went, it was so hard that you are the loser.
If Gabe won when he hosted the game, I feel like you lost when you hosted the game.
Yeah, but Gabe made up numbers. So what, is it all just, it's all just you winning, Martin? So how are you going to win this one?
I don't care about winning. I just care about
other people losing.
Yeah, yes. Well, so inspired by playing Grant's game, I wanted to create a game where we had multiple choice, and I felt that yours was really good, Grant, because it had apple varieties.
Martin, before you get into it, do you want to know the status of everybody's win-loss record? I have gone back and I have looked at everybody's wins and losses.
Go on, Grant. After Grant's talking me down, go on. Yeah, tell me who's winning.
Does this include binned episodes?
It does, actually. It does.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yes, as much as I could.
So, Grant, coming in at third place.
Grant.
So, wins and losses for games played on Neutral Cider Hotel to date, including binned episodes. Martin has 2 wins. Gabe has 2 wins. And Grant has 2 wins.
Oh! Hello.
Hello.
Now that is giving Grant a win for a binned episode that he did win that never aired, but everybody is tied across the board, two apiece.
I don't think any of us can have a problem with Grant winning a game he won.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you did, but that's admirable that you don't.
Can we just give him a half point instead?
Well, the way the points are thrown around in these games, everything's
Sound like
open.
my parents.
Oh, God. Yeah, is that including Gabe's self-win?
Unfortunately, it is including Gabe's self, or he gave himself 50 points. Yes, that is including that.
Where Gabe tried maths.
My mum's
Cider
best
maths.
math sticker, it didn't work. Oh, God. So
this is to take the lead, basically, is what you're saying.
yeah, this basically, I think I'm excluded from this because right, hang on.
No, you are, yeah, but
No, but it also depends on how many games have been played with one
let's
person
not get into
judging.
those kind of-
But I think if we go into that, everyone that was put to sleep by the fucking start of the episode isn't going to wake up for this, are they? So, guys, I've got a game. It's called, and Scott, whatever effect you want to put on this, but variety is the spice of life. So, variety is the spice of life. Basically, guys, I'm going to ask you one person. I'm going to bring up a cider and I'm going to ask for the specific variety that is missing from the description. And it's multiple choice. So even if you don't know, you can take an educated guess. Now, before the game began, guys, we did kind of a coin toss, but it was more a pen swap hand game. But Gabe won. So Gabe actually won another game. So he's on 3 out of 2. So well done, Gabe. But, so Gabe gets to go first. And if you get this wrong, out of the 3 answers I'll give you, the other 2 will go to Grant. So Grant can steal.
Okay.
So, question 1. It's one of my favorites from last year. It's Once Upon a Tree's Bacchus cider. And this was apples pressed and fermented with English Bacchus wine lees. But what were the apples? So, is it Stoke Red and Russet apples? Dabnit and Russet apples? Just Russet apples?
I am going to say B, Dabinet and Russet.
So, Gabe, that is correct.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, Grant, couldn't steal it, but number 1, straight up, yes. Dabnit, Russet, and Bacchus wine lees. It is a fucking stunner of a drink. I've probably posted it about 4 times now, but I will make it a 5th because it is a blinder.
it's a belter, yeah.
I feel that there might be a bit of an advantage here to a cider wholesaler who actually distributes this company's cider.
You can embarrass me now.
No, well, Grant, this is Little Pomona's 2018 Do It Puritan, the first bottling. So, 2018 Do It Puritan is the happy marriage of 3 amazing palm fruits. Apples, 2 varieties of exotically perfumed quince, and the glorious flush-cheeked Blakely red pear. But what apples? Is it A, Egremont Russet, B, White Norman, or C, Dabnit?
Wait, Norman.
That's correct.
Yes.
Bravo.
I knew it wasn't Argument Russet. It wasn't Argument Russet. It was
done.
Okay. Another blinding drink as well. Like, absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
I think we spoke about it enough. But this game's going by quicker than I thought. But well, we'll lean into that. I'm not bothered. Don't go home early. But so, Gabe, number 3. Gonna have a sip of my cider first.
Me too.
Me 3.
Me 4.
Oh, Pulpt. What a wonderful drink.
Oh.
And if you want to be a sponsor of the show, please just email in. So, Gabe, Wilding's Nempnet Thrubwell takes its name from the village where the orchard used is based. And this is a big orchard blend. Name all the varieties. No, I'm joking.
Gabe's face there.
So,
And actually, I was like, shit, I've won.
In the Nemnet Thrubwell, it was an orchard blend, and there was Frederick, Sweet Coppin, White Close Pippin, Somerset Red Streak, and which other? Is it A, Dabnet, B, Yarlington Mill, or C, Tremlett's Bitter?
Ooh, that's tough. All very good classic Somerset cider apple varieties.
None of those apples are listening. You don't need to appease them all.
I'm hoping that one of them might call out from beyond the grave via a cider clairvoyant. I'm going to go with my heart, and my heart says Yarlington Mill.
So the correct answer is Yarlington Mill.
Yeah.
So Grant,
Yes.
you took the piss there. Get ready for this.
If Chisel Jersey had come up, I would have gone Chisel Jersey. So
Would you?
it's glad it didn't.
Oh,
Interesting.
that was a big one, but I guess the final one's probably bigger. So Pilton's Scarlet Sharp is a culmination of
You're
which
not going to ask
fruit?
about hops, are you?
No, so it's flesh fermented blackcurrants, keeved cider, Tam O'Shanter barrels, and hops. But what hops?
Yeah.
You are going to ask about hops, you.
So, is it Fuggles and Mandarin Bavaria, Citra and Mosaic, or Mandarin Bavaria and Mosaic?
I think it's Citra and Mosaic.
I think it's Citra and Mosaic. Don't want to hear the answers again?
No.
Gabe, would you like to go for the steal?
Oh, I have a feeling that Mandarin Bavaria is in there somewhere because I remember when I tried it, I was not a variety that I knew. I'm going to go C, Mandarin Bavaria and Mosaic.
So the actual answer was C, Mandarin Bavaria and Mosaic. But fear ye not, Grant, because the game could be won, even though it's
I
kind
like
of defeats
winning.
the whole purpose of the game. to just
Wassail!
I think
Yes.
once you hear the bonus question, which is worth 10 points, so it just completely eradicates the game. But
This is sort of Gabe level of quiz
yeah,
man.
but I'm not going to win it. So, and I think you'll find out why I'm the loser in this situation. So, bonus question. Take a sip of your drinks. Mine is Pulpt level.
What? Hold on. So is this like a wee buzzer? Is this buzzer round or?
You are gonna. It's going to be the closest to a number.
Oh, it's one of those.
So, have you guys?
Okay, come
have
on.
you guys got a bit of paper? I realise I didn't ask for one, and kind of needs it. Or you could just
Already
type.
written my answer.
You've got it.
It's 2.
So,
Are you already guessing at the answer before you've heard the question?
so the bonus question. After our last episode, Scott and I spoke on the phone. However, we attempted to call on WhatsApp and FaceTime, but to no avail. Drunkenly, I called using my minutes, and the bill was texted to me as a suspicious overuse of money. But to the nearest penny, how much was my late night call to producer Scott?
Are you able to divulge how long you
Yes.
spoke for?
We need to know.
I think you both can take a wild guess
Okay,
at how
we'll have a
long I
wild guess.
talked for when
3
I was
hours,
drunk.
49 minutes.
Who are you with? Who's your provider?
I'm with O2. And
Well,
I thought my minutes were free.
I was just going to say that. I was about to write 0, but
International.
it's only
minutes,
if you're
not
in the
some-
country.
Yeah. I found that out after when I realised I hadn't connected to the internet.
One call.
One call, consecutive, just a chat, just a follow up.
There you go. I'm channeling my inner accountant. I don't know. Okay, we're there. Better have been a good call. That's all I can say.
Honestly, wouldn't change it for the world, but let's do it this way. So, Grant, what is your guess? 45.90. Fuck. All right. So, Gabe, what is your guess?
£79.34 British pence.
17 fucking hell. Well, you're halfway there. It was £145.75.
Are you kidding?
No.
What? How long did you talk for?
How long were you chatting for?
Oh, amazing. There it is. £145.
Gabe, should we give Martin the win?
I think
We need to give Martin the win. Like, I think Martin
a
won.
mercy win.
I think so. I mean, I feel that's fucking. I originally had written down £77.90, and I was like, no, that can't possibly be right.
So
It went down £30, and oh my god, really?
Yeah. So I thought I had a scam call because it said, we've noticed you've gone over your thing. And it was like o2.uk support #forward. I was like, oh, here we go. And it was like, you've gone over quite a lot there, Martin. What are you doing? And I thought, oh, I'll go on and log on and check before I like block this call and all this. And so I log in and it says I got 145 quid over what you normally pay. And then I pay my bill on top of that. So I was like, holy shit.
Oh my god!
I thought I was going to throw up. But Scott graciously sent over some money with the tag. It was something like best and longest call we could have spent money on. It was a lovely chat, but we did
£5.
we did, it was $9.99. No, Scott went above and beyond, but it was more the joke is me and my fucking drunk intentional front boot,
and I would like to offer up Gabe's win to you.
So nice of you, Grant.
I know it is so nice of me, isn't it? That I can do that. But
well,
hey,
I think no. I think because Gabe won unanimously at the front and he won on the phone bill, I think it's only right that I say Gabe gets a point and I get a point. Just so.
Oh, fuck you! Fuck. Absolutely fuck you. Right.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the spirit of wassail writ large
Fuck
here at
sale.
the Neutral Cider.
Fuck sale. And fuck the both of you.
Be whole, like the hole in my fucking wallet.
Be
For
fucked.
calling.
Come on, you can't do that to me. I was gonna go to bed quite happy and feeling good about myself, and then you've done that, and I'm ruined.
You're being very harsh, very, very harsh.
But well, that was a good game, though, Martin. I will say, Martin, that was a good game. I enjoyed it.
I wonder whether we should actually dedicate, genuinely, in the spirit of wassail, we should dedicate the point to Scott for being such a good, kind, generous human being, for stepping up and contributing to a grant.
Look, Grant's had it out for me for the beginning, so let's just be clear on that.
I get a point. Gabe gets a point, and Scott gets a point. That's it. Really.
Oh, yeah, no, that sounds spot on. Perfect.
Climb into your really nice mattress. Did you win, honey? No, the fucking producer did. I'm also
Where am I
weirdly.
from now? Where am I from now?
So we'll leave who actually won or got points to the official adjudicator, to the ombudsman, whoever that is listening in. Quite possibly producer Scott, who might award himself a point. Martin, thank you for a game that we were able to play. And, well done for having a conversation with producer Scott. That's a nice thing to do. But next time, just connect to the internet, won't you? That's about us for the Neutral Cider Hotel this week. We hope that you have enjoyed our wassail celebrations. And we haven't even really... we'll save that for another time. Wassail is a great thing. Do go check it out. Google wassail on the googly thing, as Cath said, and you can find out a lot more about it. Gents, any final words before we sign off?
If you would like to sponsor my phone bill, please get in touch and pay over the fire. I don't know, I'm tired.
On that tree there was a limb, and on that limb there was a branch, and on that branch there was a nest, and in that nest there was an egg, and in that egg there was a bird, and from that bird a feather came, of that feather was a bed.
Go on. The listeners at home won't know this, but the internet connection went weird, so you went, and on that nest there was a...
Oh, no way. I did the Wicker Man Maple song for you.
Oh, see, I knew it as like the bog down in the rattling ho, hey ho, the rattling bog, the bog down in the valley, oh. But you just went...
Well, I didn't. Hopefully it uploads normally.
It will, but you will never know what we heard in that moment, which was so weird. Thank you for sharing that.
I appreciated your silence. I was quite surprised by it, but...
Listeners at home, if you've made it this far, God bless you. You are truly dedicated fans, and we do thank your listenership so much. And please remember, do tell everybody to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. Follow on Spotify, listen on your favorite podcast app. Check us out on Instagram, Neutral Cider Hotel, on Twitter, Neutral Cider Pod, and the website, www.neutralciderhotel.com. This has been Neutral Cider Hotel. We are checking out for another week. Thank you very much, and wassail! See you next time.